a little bit of what the Venus Project is. Those of you that know what it is, will you raise your hands? So I guess I don't have to tell you what it is. And essentially what the Venus Project proposes is that we bring all the nations together and take care of everything on earth. We pledge allegiance to the environment and all the world's people. The end of separate nations, the end of the artificial boundaries that separate people, and the sharing of all the world's resources by all the world's people. Anything less than that will create the same problems over and over again. If few nations control most of the Earth's resources, you're going to have territorial disputes. You're going to have war. You're going to have all the problems you've always had. That's why most people think it's human nature. They think man is basically greedy, and that this is why you have problems. That is not true. I want to say this. A banker, a serial killer, and a gangster, and a priest are made by environment. If you don't understand that, in the United States, in the Deep South, if you're brought up there, you'll speak with a Southern accent. Nothing you can do about it. If I say stop speaking with a Southern accent, you can't. Now, if you're brought up in an uneducated region, you're going to have things like this. Those damn niggers is the way they speak. I'm imitating them. They say things like, I'm gonna dip me a nigger and I'm gonna kick his ass. That environment, the expressions, the facial movements are picked up by the environment. It's not human behavior, it's the environment we come from which generates behavior. Now, if you're brought up in Italy, you say, come on, eat, there's a good food. Now, that is not, that's the way you would speak if you were brought up there. Vive la France, Deutschland over alles, Germany above all. Now, we are victims of culture, all of us. That's why we have a distorted view. We believe that some people are good, some are bad, some are creative, some are less creative. All that's bunk. Everyone can be creative.
Jacque Fresco is a futurist. A futurist is someone for whom all thoughts and actions are based upon what tomorrow could be. He has been planning for the future since the 1920s. Not only is he a philosopher and theorist, but an engineer, industrial designer, and social planner. As a multidisciplinarian, he has studied everything from theology to behaviorism, and from biology to the material sciences. Jacque Fresco doesn't want to just talk about what today will be like tomorrow. He has a plan to build an entire new world from the ground up.
My guest is an extraordinary Miamian, Dr. Jacque Fresco. I could go through all the things that Dr. Fresco has done. He's a social engineer, industrial engineer, designer, inventor, consultant, was a consultant for Rotorcraft Helicopter, director of Scientific Research Laboratories, Los Angeles, designed and copyrighted various items, ranging from drafting instruments to X-ray units. Has had works published in the Architectural Record, Popular Mechanics, Saturday Review, and has been a technical and psychological consultant to the motion picture industry, member of the Air Force Design Development Unit at Wright Field, developed the electrostatic anti-icing systems, designed prefabricated aluminum houses. What does it say in your driver's license? What is the occupation?
Industrial designer.
Jacque, you...
Social engineer.
Does it bug you that people, when they talk about Jacque Fresco in Miami, say that he's someone who's too far ahead of his time? His thinking is, we're not ready for advanced kind of thinking, that type. Does it bug you?
I imagine every creative person in every field encounters that sort of problem. No, it doesn't. I can't afford it. There's too many things that are important. In the future, houses will have many sensory devices to detect fire, toxic materials, anything that may threaten the life of a human being. Now, if you walked into the house of the future, you might say, can I use your phone? question, what's a phone? You know, no, you just say, I'd like to talk to Sam in Arabia. What part of Arabia? You just announce what you want, and the sound will be focused. At some point, it's standing right at your ear, so you can hear Sam in Arabia. I did this about 65 years ago. This is what an automobile will look like in the future. It'll have sensors on it. So if I got mad at you, and when I get within a certain, the brakes go on. If I'm backing up and there's a child crossing, the car stops. No one drowns in a swimming pool because the net comes up when you're not home. Is that clear? If somebody falls in the pool and you're busy cooking, the child sinks and what touches it comes up right away. What do you want? What kind of world do you want? Okay. We're going over to the model dome where we have models of future type buildings and how they go together. Here you have the city system. I put domes here, but there'll be very many variations. In other words, yes.
What are those?
These are research centers.
Okay.
This is medicine, agronomy, population designing, product improvement of products, energy systems. Energy in the future will be geothermal, most of it. You can get that from the earth. There's enough geothermal energy for thousands of years without worrying about anything. And I'm not talking about solar wind power or wave power or tidal power. All that is extra. So there's no shortage of anything except brains in Washington.
You can't make money from the sun.
What's that?
You can't make money from the sun.
No, you can't. Exactly that. Now all these buildings can come apart and be recycled. Now if you follow me, we'll go to the future.
All right, let's explore the thinking of Jacque Fresco and the society he'd like to see. Now we'll start with this, and you tell me.
I'll try to point it out.
Yeah, you can point right at it.
Most of the cities are based on natural configurations, basic designs in nature. The center of the city, the nucleus, will house an electronic computer, which only controls water purification, the atmospheric conditions, that is, it controls air contamination systems. They maintain safety, they oversee the environment, maintain ecological balance between animal life and plant life. The center of the city is a university that covers all subjects related to man. There's no courses that are used to exploit or abuse any other human being. All repetitious jobs will be phased out. We feel that machines ought to do the filthy or the repetitious or the boring jobs, that man has to be free to pursue the higher things, the higher possibilities of man. In other words, if this...
So you came up with this idea for a round city.
A round city, a round governmental branch. And then extending out of it would be the Department of Agriculture, Education, Oceanography, the disciplines. The circular scheme or plan brings each district closer to the central dome, which contains the medical, food, shopping, everything else that people need. The circular arrangement makes it easier to operate using far less energy than any other system. And if you start at one end of the city and go through the city, you always return at the same place. Whereas in a linear city, you go to one end, you have to backtrack to get to the same point. So the circular scheme is by far the most efficient. And when cities are contracted in the future, they will be contracted as a whole, as an entire system. In that way, all of the parts and components would be delivered in stages. Like sequence 1 will be the underground, the heating systems, the electric generators, the piping systems, the recycling systems. Then after that, the next layer, which would serve as the first layer that contains the architecture, the foundations for all the buildings, and after that, the erection of structures up from the foundations. Starting with the central portion of the city, working its way out to the different radial sectors, and then out to the final housing sectors, and then to the agricultural belt, and then to the recreation areas. You can't play with one kid. This is my youngest kid. You must take the older kid, put him on your lap, and the younger kid and say, this is your baby brother. Never say to a girl, why can't you be like your sister? She puts everything in her place. You leave everything all over the place. I have to pick up after you. Then the sister becomes jealous. That's where jealousy comes from. It comes from poor manipulation of the variables. In human behavior, if you give one child or treat one child as your favorite, you hurt the other children. If you grade children in school, you hurt the other kids. I got an A, what did you get? F, failure, you know. So people have different attitudes. So people that steal, all of us, by the way, are prostitutes.